Hey, how you doing? How you been? What's going on? This is your commissioner here, and we're here for episode 3, which is round 2 for our fantasy football mock draft. I have a great episode for you guys. Today we're going to be covering the first half of round 2. And if you haven't already, as always, please subscribe and like my videos. I thank those that have already done so. If you want to ask questions, I would love to answer your questions, so please do not be shy and ask a question. No question is a dumb question, right? Ask a question and I will answer them on my next episode. Okay, so let's get ready for round 2, episode 3. And we're off. Round 1 results. First overall pick, we have Barkley, Zeke, McCaffrey, Kamara, Bell, Connor, Hopkins, Thomas, Juju, Adams, DJ, and Melvin Gordon. Some little takeaways from round 1. I was high on Le'Veon Bell. I see him as being the Jets' absolute monster this year. He's going to do everything for the New York Jets. He's going to be in the slot. He's going to be in the backfield. He's going to do everything for the Jets. So I took him at 5. Now, going back and kind of comparing my draft with maybe an ESPN guy or another fantasy insider, I took him a little bit higher than they have. They have him really ranging between the 8 and 12 spot. Some have him even later. I just like what I think he's going to bring to the Jets. He's well rested. He's got something to prove. I'm willing to take that chance on Bell at 5. My second takeaway from round 1 was Melvin Gordon. I took Melvin Gordon at 12. The injury risk for me scares me away from taking him earlier. A lot of people have him in the top 5. Some of them have him top 3. If he's on the field, the guy's a monster. I get it. And I wouldn't hate you for taking him earlier. I just like to stay away from the guys that kind of wear down as the season goes on. Another reason why I'm scared to take him so early, and I took him at 12 instead, is that he doesn't have a clear number 2 behind him. I would be certainly okay with drafting him like 5 overall and then taking his quality backup late in the draft and keep him on my bench just in case Gordon goes down. But since he doesn't have that backup, it kind of scares me, which is why I'm waiting to 12. Let's get started with round 2. We have pick 13, Team L. Team L again, they waited and they took Melvin Gordon with the 12th overall pick. Their first pick of the second round is going to Julio. The guy is a beast. 2018, he had in 16 games, he caught 113 balls for 1,677 receiving yards. He had 8 scores. He had 325 fantasy points in PPR and 212 fantasy points in the standard leagues. Like I said before, what is there not to love about Julio Jones, the Alabama product? The guy is a freak. He's one of the bigger receivers in the league. He's got one of the best hands in the league, and he certainly, in my opinion, after a guy named Antonio Brown, runs the best routes in the league. You combine those 3 together, you have a freak of an athlete. His consistency is incredible. In 9 games in 2018, he saw 10 or more targets, guys. In 9 games, he saw 10 or more targets, I repeat, from Matt Ryan. His consistency, again, in 10 games last season, he caught over 100 yards. He had over 100 yards in 10 games. That's crazy numbers. Okay, his consistency and his output, meaning from Matt Ryan, he's going to see the ball a lot. And I like that in my early draft players. I'd rather have the consistent looks every single week for that chance to have those monster games. 2019, my high ceiling, again, guys, I'm giving you ceiling numbers, is going to be 110 catches for 1,600 yards. He'll have 9 touchdowns for a total of 324 fantasy PPR points and 214 standard league points. I'll take him in PPR and I'll also take him in standard, no doubt. Round 2, pick 14 from Team K. In the first round, Team K went with David Johnson of the Arizona Cardinals. With their 14th pick, they're taking OBJ. In 2018, OBJ played in 12 games. He caught 77 balls in those 12 games for 1,052 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, 230 fantasy PPR points, and 153 standard league points. I love OBJ. As I said in my first video, I'm a huge Giants fan. He is now in Cleveland, which to me definitely helps him. He's got a clean slate. He doesn't have the Giants general managers breathing down his neck and watching his every move. He can be his own man in Cleveland, and I think that's really going to help him. Also, he doesn't have Spaghetti Arm Manning throwing to him anymore. He's got a young, powerful arm in Baker Mayfield throwing him deep balls, going to be throwing him deep balls, on a consistent basis. We know how Baker loves to take his shots down the field, and now he has his ultimate weapon. OBJ is masterful when the ball is in the air. Whether it's one hands, two hands, zero hands with his face mask, he'll catch it, throw it up, and give him the ball. He's also playing with a chip on his shoulder. And you've seen in my first round, I'm taking those guys with a chip on their shoulder, especially in a game of football where it's played with a lot of emotion. I like these type of players. Now, his negative side, I mentioned it again late in the second video, Landry. Landry's going to get a lot of looks for the Browns. He got a lot of looks last year. He's going to be that security blanket for Baker. He's going to be the guy running the crossing patterns, the shallow to mid-yard routes. So Landry, to me, does hurt OBJ a little bit. By a little bit, I still think OBJ goes off. In 2019, I project 90 catches for 1,600 yards. Again, the deep ball. 11 scores, end zone machine this year, calling it. And he's going to have 316 fantasy PPR points. And he's going to have 243 standard fantasy points. Moving on with pick 15 in round 2, Team J's drafted Davante Adams in round 1. They are taking a chance here with my man Todd Gurley, who is a freak. In 2018, he played 15 games. He rushed for 1,251 yards. He had, guys, that's not a typo, he had 17 rushing touchdowns. It's incredible. He only caught the ball 59 times, though, which to me was kind of shocking, but I'll get to that in a little while. He had 580 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. He scored 372.1 fantasy PPR points and 313 standard fantasy points. Todd Gurley, 17 touchdowns. He's a touchdown machine. He is the Rams engine that runs that offense. When the Rams lost their 3 games last year, guys, Gurley only touched the ball 13, 11, and 12 times. The Rams lost all 3 of those games, the only losses they had in the regular season. When Gurley touches the ball 15 or more times, or I guess in this case 14 or more times, the Rams win every time. They're going to have to resort back to running the ball. Now, with that being said, you could turn on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, NFL Network, and they are talking about his knee issues. It is reported that he's got arthritis in his right knee. This is and can be and will be, in my opinion, a long-term issue for Todd Gurley. With that being said, how bad does it hurt right now this year in heading into 2019? I am not sure. I do believe he still has a great year, but he will lose some touches. They will try to get an extra year or 2 with that knee issue, so they will give other players the ball. C.J. Anderson came out of nowhere last year. Everyone thought he was dead in the water. Came out of nowhere, had a great end of the year for them, even in the playoffs. He is now gone. But they did draft Henderson out of Memphis. This kid is very, very talented. He was that whole offense last year. Defenses were game planning to stop him. They did draft him for security purposes for Todd Gurley. What happens if Todd Gurley's knee continues to get worse and he is just not the same player? We need a backup. Henderson is their man. So, if you think Todd Gurley's knee is not an issue, go ahead and take him early, because he is going to sit around till the late first round, early second round. Jump on him. This team here, picking in the 15th, has Davante Adams, and if Todd Gurley is anything like Todd Gurley was last year, this team will win because of those 2 picks. Those 2 guys are going to be monsters this year if healthy. So, my prediction for Todd Gurley in 2019, he'll have 1,100 rushing yards. He'll again get in the end zone many times, so totaling about 13 times this year. He's going to have 50 catches for 400 receiving yards, 4 touchdown scores once again for 302 fantasy PPR points and 262 standard league points. Again, if you think his knee is going to be healthy, take him. If you don't, stay away. Pick 16, Team I. Team I went with Juju, first round. This team, with their pick number 16, is going to go with Joe Mixon out of Oklahoma. In 2018, he played in 14 games. He rushed for 1,168 total yards, 8 scores, 43 receptions, 296 receiving yards, and a receiving score. That was good for 243 PPR points and 200 flat fantasy standard points. So we start to see a dip in RB1 production here, guys. I do think that after Gurley, if he's healthy, and Bell and all those RB1s, we start to see the dip happen right here. Don't get me wrong, Joe Mixon is a very talented running back, but I'm not going to put him in the same stratosphere or tier as Barkley's, as the Zekes in this league. He is a serviceable RB1, however, in fantasy. He's only played 14 games in both of his first 2 seasons. So, to say that he's going to play a full season, I can't, because we haven't seen it yet from him. He does get in the end zone, so I do believe he's going to have double-digit touchdowns this season. So, who's behind Joe Mixon? Well, Gio Bernard, that guy's been on the Bengals, it feels like, since I started playing fantasy football about 15 years ago. However, they did draft this Williams kid out of Texas A&M. The kid is explosive. He's a smaller runner, but he's quick as lightning. I do think he will steal some looks from Mixon on third down. Do I think he hurts Mixon this year? No. I think they drafted him to be more of like a Cohen type of player from the Bears. I do think he's going to be placed around. He will play with Joe Mixon on the field, but I don't see him hurting Joe Mixon too much. There are people that are saying, however, that Williams is the steal of the draft. They said they got him in the 6th round, and that was just way too late, they believe. So they do think this kid's going to be something, but I'm going to say that they're going to try to get Mixon going again. They're going to give him another year to see what happens. 2019, my predictions for Joe Mixon and the Bengals are going to be he's going to rush for 1,250 yards, 10 scores, 50 catches, 300 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns for a total of 277 fantasy PPR points, and standard league 225 points. Team H is up next with pick 17. They drafted Michael Thomas with their first overall pick in round 1. They are going with the man, the myth, the legend, Antonio Brown. 2018, in 15 games, he had 104 catches, 1,297 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns, guys. This is why I'm a little bit higher on Juju than most experts are. They are taking Juju late in the first, even the middle of the second. I took him middle of the first. I think he's going to get in the end zone for the Steelers. Why? Because Antonio Brown, with his 15 touchdowns, are no longer there. He scored 323 fantasy PPR points last season and 219 standard league points. I mean, there's not really much I can say about Antonio Brown, is there? I just say that name and I just get highlight after highlight. The guy is a monster. He is on the Raiders, however, now, as we all know, or we should know, and he's got David Carr. Is David Carr a good quarterback? I don't know. We'll see. He had Amari Cooper on his team last year, right? He did nothing with Cooper on his team. Cooper goes to Dallas and he starts going off with Dak Prescott, who's not even that good of a quarterback, in my opinion. So, do you think David Carr is a good quarterback? Yes or no? If you say yes, you're taking Antonio Brown even earlier than I just did. If you say no, you're going to wait on Antonio Brown. If you say you're not sure, I would take Antonio Brown right where I took him. Because, again, I am not sure. The Raiders also don't have any other receivers behind Antonio Brown. They did just sign Tyrell Williams, the kid from LA Chargers. He is a good receiver. He does catch those middle dig routes. I can imagine 1,000 times watching the Chargers, and Williams was catching those dig routes over the middle on 3rd and long from Phillip Rivers. So he is going to be a good player. Do I think he takes away from Antonio Brown? Absolutely not. Nobody takes away from Antonio Brown. The guy's just too talented. So in 2019, I see him catching 110 catches for 1,200 yards, which is a little dip from last year. 15 scores again. He's going to score for the Raiders. He scores every season. He's going to continue to score for this new team. He's going to have 320 fantasy PPR points, and he's going to have 210 standard league points. Team G with pick 18 picked in the first round DeAndre Hopkins, one of my favorite players. So who are they going with round 2? Well, another one of my favorite players. I really like the way this team is shaping out. I would love to have Hopkins, and I would love to have Kelsey on my team heading into 2019. But to go back, 2018, Travis Kelsey played in full season of 16 games. He caught 103 balls, 1,336 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns, 294.6 fantasy PPR points, and 191 standard league points. In my opinion, and in many people's opinion, Travis Kelsey is the best tight end in football. He does it on a consistent basis, and it also helps that he has the MVP throwing him the ball. Mahomes is the real deal, people. He loves to chuck it, and Travis Kelsey is that dude. Now, Tyreek Hill, gone, not playing, off. He could even be off the Chiefs. I hope he is. But that's for another video, I guess. But does that hurt Travis Kelsey not having Tyreek Hill on the field? If you say yes, it does hurt him. That means you think that Travis Kelsey cannot get open against the double teams, is going to see a lot of linebacker in his face, meaning jamming him at the line, releasing him, and then having a DB or a safety play over the top. That's possible. Do you think Tyreek Hill being off the field is not going to hurt Kelsey? You believe that he can beat the double team, and that linebacker in his face is not going to bother him. Let me give you some insight. Travis Kelsey saw linebackers in his face, defensive ends in his face all season long, and he consistently beat the coverage. I'm a big believer in Travis Kelsey. I think Tyreek Hill not being on the field is going to help him. I do believe that the Chiefs' offense as a whole is not going to be as explosive, obviously, without Tyreek Hill, but I do think Travis Kelsey gets it done again. So in 2019, my predictions, he's going to have 110 catches, 1,400 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns, 316 fantasy PPR points, and 206 standard fantasy points. Again, Travis Kelsey is my number one tight end off the board, and I'm hoping to have Travis Kelsey on my team heading into 2019. All right, so guys, that is it for episode 3, first 6 picks of the second round. Please tune in for episode 4, where I'm going to cover the second half of round 2, as well as go back and I'm going to review round 1, round 2, and what I was kind of thinking during every pick, why I either went with running back, tight end, or receiver, and who knows, maybe I go with a quarterback early. But you're going to have to tune in to episode 4 to find out. Again, please hit the subscribe button, like my videos, please ask questions. I would love to answer them. So, as always, good luck to my managers. Commish out.